Okay, that's it. Okay. Hi, Samara. I can see you're there. Thank you for joining us.
Hello,
Hello, hello. No,
nice to be here.
absolutely. 2 days in a row, guys. Honestly, we've got Selva and Samara. No, Flourish loyalists. I'm impressed. Good stuff, girls. Okay, so as I said, and look, we've got lovely May having a bit of lunch in the car. She's made time for this at my request because, well, she's amazing. And I'll tell you why. So, of course, if we're going to talk about flourishing futures for all, now I know that sounds a bit wishy-washy and a bit fairy, but this International Women's Day, International Women's Week is inspire inclusion. And when we're looking at inclusivity, of course, we're going to focus on the fact that women are still not proportional in terms of equity, equality, the gender pay gap, and all of those things that go with the political and social landscapes. And we could go down that absolute rabbit hole, of course we could, but it would not be a lunch and learn. We'd be here for a good 6-month cohort. So what we're going to really hone in on is you and your circumstances and what we can do at Flourish to empower you and enable you to take the next steps, grow a bit quicker, or just breathe a little easier. And to that end, I've invited May because May is a financial whiz, and she'll hate me saying that. She's not going to solve all your problems, but she is going to give you some absolutely real life, tangible, pragmatic insights into what financial security is, can we achieve it, what steps do we need to take to ensure that, and also because she is a budding social entrepreneur herself and and I'm going to give you a little secured some mega funding for her incredible work that she's doing. So let's just take a minute to focus on that because the girl works hard and now the girl's got paycheck. And that's part of what I want to talk about. We're talking about financial resilience, financial security as social entrepreneurs and as women, as mothers, as change makers, as wives, daughters, whatever. We're going to talk about how important it is to see the value in that and make sure you're getting paid the value in that. Okay, May, introduce yourself in a much more succinct way than I managed to.
Hello, yes, I apologise for the car. I was in a community centre, but the Wi-Fi was dreadful. So you've got me in a car park instead. I am the founding director of Talk About Money CIC, and that's what we do. We talk about money. I'm also a solo parent. I'm on Universal Credit and I do some private financial coaching alongside my new part-time salary for the CIC, which is, yes, very exciting. And yeah, financial security is definitely basically my entire life, mine and other people's. So yeah, I ramble about money in all different contexts.
Okay. So when you were thinking about setting up your CIC and your community venture and educating people on better habits and understanding their finances better and educating them on more effective ways of maximizing universal credit and looking at different ways of fine-tuning their financial security, do you feel like you had all your ducks in order when you started out with this beautiful vision?
I'm not sure I even had any ducks. I thought I might have some eggs,
That's a good
but I
start.
wasn't convinced they were going to hatch. I was. This is going to sound very peculiar. I was very fortunate to have been recently divorced, and very fortunate that my toddler, who is entirely unrelated to the divorce, is disabled. And those sound like very peculiar things to say a fortune, but I wound up with the house and the mortgage after the divorce. Nobody was going to rent to me or give me a mortgage when my childcare costs were 75% of my salary. So I was very fortunate that I already had a mortgage. It wasn't necessarily very easy to pay it, but I had it. And then when it became no longer possible to keep the house, I got to keep the equity. So that was good luck from the perspective of everything was disastrous. So how can I make the best of it? And because my son gets disability living allowance, I'm able to get universal credit without them hassling me about work for a little bit longer, which gave me the opportunity to start something that I knew wasn't going to be bringing in profit as quickly as the DWP believe all businesses should. So I have experienced the peculiarities of the benefit system and the weird way in which bad things happening in your life can, if used correctly, give you the starting point for better things. I'm also very aware that those things are a privilege. Like, it is a privilege that I don't have to work full time as soon as my son turns 3, that other people don't necessarily get that privilege, and it doesn't mean that they're any less deserving of it, or any less, the work they want to do is any less valuable. It just means that the government seem to think that 3-year-olds magically don't need any care, and you can just ship them off to daycare and do a full-time job immediately.
Well, absolutely. You know, if we're, as I say, if we were going to look at the patriarchal issues that International Women's Day, of course, always presents, you know, getting women back into work after they've popped out a few babies or two, you know, that's a quandary unto itself. But no, I appreciate the honesty and your sharing of kind of your circumstances. Having obviously been involved with the Flourish Network for a while now and supported us in different ways with your financial advice and sort of education, really, more than anything else, what would you say is one of the most frequent barriers women are finding setting up their social enterprises, and they're coming to you and saying, May, I just don't know what to do about this?
I would say it is a lack of, I don't want to sound all woo-woo, you can manifest it if you believe it hard enough, because the flip side of that is, if you don't manifest it, you must not have tried hard enough. And I don't believe that. But I think the fear of it all going wrong and what happens if it doesn't work out can become so paralyzing that you don't do the things that they're reversible. So yes, if you sell your house and sink all the money from selling your house into the one risky investment of a franchise that you doing something you've never done before and you have no idea if it'll work or not, that is it's not quite irreversible, but it's quite a big thing to have done. But starting a small market stall selling something once a month on a Saturday is not the same thing as putting all of your eggs into one basket and then setting the basket on fire and hoping it turns into an omelette. But because we have a tendency to think 5 or 6 steps ahead and see all the things that could go wrong if all of those steps aren't perfect, we don't take the first step. And often, if you take the first step, you can still go backwards, or
Oh no, you're in beautiful flow, and we've got May frozen, and I was so enthralled in that. So we'll wait.
first step is the first step on multiple paths.
There we go.
But by taking a step, it's a step on all of the paths, not just one. Sorry, that phone call threw me off a bit there. But yes, I see, especially for women, because often we have other people's expectations, other people's needs weighing on us more heavily. And we feel responsible for things that aren't actually our responsibility, like other people's feelings about our choices. And those things weigh heavy as well, and they prevent taking that first step. And sometimes the first step is literally just getting more information. But you almost feel like you can't get more information because then you've committed to doing it. And until you're sure that you can do it, you don't want to start doing it. So you won't get any information about what doing it would involve. So you never know whether or not you can do it or not. So you never do it. But that doesn't mean you couldn't have done it. Very succinct there.
I love that. No, absolutely. You know, you've hit the nail on the head, and I resonate with that implicitly. And of course, with our new program of Time to Grow, which is just huge in numbers, it's interesting because, of course, the desire is there, the motivation is there, but as you say, all of these barriers that you've just described, I know every woman in that room is feeling those on some level, which is it the right time? Oh, but what if? And what if they think? And what if I should? And actually, one of the things that we find very much is, of course, and I can speak on my own behalf, is that it's very difficult to invest your time, emotion, money, etc., into building your social venture when you're running a life, you're running a household, and you're working full-time or part-time or whatever it may be to pay the bills. And there's that fear factor. You know, in my circumstance, goodness, I'm working part-time for Flourish. I'm studying undergrad in criminology, and I'm finding headspace to build coming home and thinking about the investment it takes in terms of grants and bids, and when will I write this, and when will I do that, and when would I actually get to facilitate any of these things that I'm putting on paper. And should I, or would it make more sense to just go and get a full-time job that pays the bills and I don't have to think about these things? And hopefully that gives me some purpose in life. But that's the point. We're all doing this because we need that opportunity to give something back, to plug that gap in society. But at what cost, I suppose, is the question. Do you feel you found the balance now, especially now you've got this funding to give you some financial freedom?
I do have to remind myself why I'm doing what I do. I have a good friend who is married. She has a reasonably good job. I mean, she works in museums, so she's not earning a fortune, but she's got a better income than mine. And her husband has just had 100% bonus. So he already earns 70K and they've given him more than 70K as an annual bonus. And I have moments where I think, why? Why am I doing that? Why am I working for very little money when I could have done, I don't even know. Oh, no, actually, I do know what he does. He's a lawyer. So it's very relevant to me because I did a law degree. I could have, I probably wouldn't have ended up earning as much as he does, but I could have gone into that field. And sometimes I think, oh gosh, wouldn't it be easier if I was bringing home 150 grand a year? But then I remind myself of all the things that I would not have. And there are very good reasons why I've made the choices I've made. And there are very good reasons why I do what I do. And remembering that those things also have value, even if they don't have like capitalist value, they have value to me. And I have to remind myself of that. And I look at my son and I think, I get to spend time with you and I get to build a life and I get to build a community I want you to grow up in. That is more important to me than £150,000, although £50,000 would be nice. But also I think the flip side of that is that we have to remember that what we do is worth more than a bare subsistence wage. And getting the National Lottery funding, when I put together the bid, was going to cover my salary for 10 hours a week. And I've been doing cash flow projections and all of that stuff that you have to do. You have to figure out spreadsheets and things. And when I sat down and thought about that stuff, I realized that we can actually probably afford to pay me for 20 hours a week. And I was thinking, oh, but that's not it. I don't know why I don't know who I thought it wasn't fair to. I think I felt it wasn't fair to one of my there's two other directors. One of them is working full time, one of them is working part time, and he has a very similar professional background to me. And I was thinking, well, it's not fair if I get paid for doing all the directory stuff when the other directors aren't being paid. But actually, I'm not just doing all the directory stuff, I'm doing all the other stuff, I'm doing everything. And it is fair that the time I spend thinking and developing the business is paid. In fact, it should be being paid more than the time I spend delivering workshops. And I'm saying that without believing it because that's not how I think. Like, thinking about ways to make the world a better place has never struck me as something that people get paid for. And it damn well should be. And it is okay. And in fact, it's necessary that I'm paid more than minimum wage. And it's not a bad thing. And I'm telling myself that as I say it out loud to you because I don't actually believe it. But you have to, what we do matters. It's valuable. It's sure as shit more valuable than some things that people are being paid 10 times as much for, 100 times as much for. Like, I'm not saying that football isn't valuable, but I don't think it's a million times more valuable than the work I do. And they're certainly getting paid an awful lot more than I do for it. So there are times where I have to just tell myself to shut up and get on with it and then pay myself for it. Because actually, if I was employing somebody else to do this, I would absolutely think that they should be being paid. And I have to think about that quite a lot sometimes because we're so programmed as women and as people who care about others to think, well, what's the least possible that I can take? I almost never have a bowl of yogurt now. I almost never eat yogurt. What I eat is the scrapings of the tub after my son has finished eating the yogurt. And I can't take that approach to my entire life. I can't just be happy with the scraps of what's left over and other people have finished, because I'm also a person. And I deserve yogurt, to continue that metaphor. I don't think we can take it any further, but I do deserve some yogurt of my own. And if I don't get some yogurt, then I might not be able to help other people get their yogurt. This metaphor has definitely had its useful day, but yeah, you take my point.
I do. And let me tell you, next time I see you, I'm going to give you a yogurt.
It has to be a soya yogurt.
Yes, indeed, I remember. But no, I hear that, I feel that, and I hope you believe that. It's like you said, it's a mantra that we really, as women and as social entrepreneurs, we have to have that as part of our daily mantra, which is, I deserve this, I deserve this. I absolutely, my worth is, more, absolutely. And
I think one of the
quantify it.
important things
Yeah.
not to add more than others. We're not saying I deserve this more than other.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
But
I agree.
more.
It's not at the cost of anyone. It's
But I
just
think
appreciating.
we often do think that way. We often do kind of, if other people have it worse, why should I not? But actually, the question you should be asking is, if other people have it better, why should I not? Why not me? And also, why not them too?
Absolutely. No, and I think we're all guilty of that, definitely. I often think when I'm frustrated at the state of affairs, and I sometimes think the pinch is a little hard at times. My wife and I, we often say to each other, gosh, but we are fortunate. I know it's hard, but aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky? And I know we do that. It's the British guilt. I think it is definitely how we're programmed to feel. But as you say, why not them? Why not us, etc. No, very good.
And people have been, there's been some comments coming up in the chat about mental health, and I think that sometimes we see it as an either or. So either we can take care of our mental health, or we can earn enough to live a decent life. And I think that often is the case. Like, that is often people's experience, because the financial abundance that we see usually comes with self-sacrifice of well-being. But I think it is possible, and there are plenty of examples of people doing it, it is possible to financially be comfortable and to prioritize your well-being. But we can only do that if we're really clear on what we need and what we offer and the value of what we offer. And I'm so guilty of this myself, thinking, what's the smallest possible amount I can charge for my work and still be able to pay the bills? I'll charge that. And the thing that has really helped me is when I've been talking to people about the work that I can deliver, and they have quoted me a figure, and it is 10, 15 times as much as I would have asked for. And I don't say, and I really want to, but I don't say, oh, I'll do it for half of that. Because actually, if I have too much money coming in, then I could employ somebody else as well. I don't want to take less money. I want to create more opportunity. And it's such a bizarre thing to get my head around. But actually, if we believe in the value, if we only believe in the value of our work based on what we can get other people to pay us for it, we're always going to price ourselves low. And if we're waiting for somebody else to come along and say, I'll pay you more, sometimes they will. Sometimes we'll get a proposal that says, I'll pay you £8,000 for 15 hours of work or whatever. But at other times we'll get people saying, well, we actually don't have the budget to pay our speakers for this, despite being a government organisation. So will you do it for free? And we have to remember that that's not, like, the electricity company won't accept free as a payment method. And yes, if we end up with too much money, that's a good problem to have.
I love that. No, absolutely. No. Okay, ladies, questions for May, thoughts, feelings, has that kind of resonated with you? What's chimed with you? Selva, I can see you nodding ferociously. Yes, share your thoughts with us.
First of all, May, that was inspirational, and you've been amazing, and I'm Wow. That I hear you with the disabled. I know what you know when you said at the beginning it sounds strange about the divorce and your son being disabled. And I haven't quite got those experiences, but I know exactly what you mean. In fact, I mentioned it a little bit. I spoke yesterday and I was saying it might sound weird, but my depression and anxiety was really good for me. Not that I'd want to have it again, but it really it's made me into what I am now. And then I'm autistic as well. I've only just found out, and you know all these things, and then you take them, don't you, and you try and then well, okay, so how can I use this actually to to make things better and make things better for others? So I think that's why we're here, isn't it? And it's just, and you're right, that fear factor of if I do this and it goes wrong, my partner works, so I'm lucky he's a teacher and I'm sessional, so I only get paid for what I do, so it's unreliable. And every month I'm going, oh, have I got enough to go to get to come in, blah blah blah. And but I'm still lucky. But it's scary. It's really scary. I'm going to do it anyway. But you've really sort of cemented that, yeah, I think I am doing it. I am doing it the right way. And just so much of what you said, and that not feeling ourselves worthy enough is something I think we all feel like, why? I work so bloody hard. I work around the kids. So I get them to school. I do a bit while they're at school. I pick them up. I come home. I do more. I'm working evenings. I work sometimes till midnight and after. I'm working weekends. Why am I thinking, why do I feel guilty? But I do. And when will that go away? And what's the minimum I think I can ask for so that they don't say no? And I mean, I'm just starting with the hope, maybe getting some funding and stuff. So I haven't done it yet. But I'm like, right. So, and I'm constantly thinking, right, if I ask for that, is that too much? And you're right. And the footballer thing was spot on.
One thing that I found really helpful for figuring out how much the organisation should be paying me, and that in itself has been a head shift to stop thinking about me being everything. So, but actually thinking about the company, which yes, I own and I run and I have significant control over, but it is in fact a separate legal entity from me. That was a major head shift. What the company should be paying me, I've looked at the National Joint Council pay scales, which is what the local government pays. And fortunately for me, it was the pay scale that my former employer used. So I was already familiar with the pay scale and I knew where I had been when I was employed as just delivering the stuff that I'm now running an organization to deliver and develop. So I knew that I should be earning more than that point because I knew that my managers had been earning more than that and I was now being the manager and all the other stuff. So I kind of benchmarked it at, in a magical world where we had unlimited funding, how much is the CEO of a small community interest company being paid elsewhere? And that was like 50 grand, I think, from what very limited research, full time 50 grand. Obviously, in industry, they're making far more than that, but that was a kind of approximate amount that if I were to teleport into an organization with lots of funding, that might be a CEO pay. What was I being paid when I was working full time, delivering but not developing the organization? What's in between that? And obviously, there's quite a lot of range in between that. What can, from the money we have coming in, what can my CIC actually afford to pay me? And then to say to myself, if you go for less than that, then you are undercutting everybody else doing similar work because the funders will always benchmark against other people doing similar things. So if we don't bid for a rate that is comparable to what we'd get if we were being employed elsewhere, we are saying to the funders, you only need to pay people £10 an hour to do this or £12 an hour. And actually, if you say, we're going to pay £15 an hour, plus we've got these other costs, let's factor it all in, that's it's again, it's about thinking about other people because that's so deeply programmed that I can't think about what's best for me. I have to think about what's best for others in order to tell myself to do the right thing for me. But it's a mind game that's worked because I am now paying myself. It's a 50% equivalent of a full-time position, but I can't work full-time. So I am working about 50%. And I've I've not quite got comfortable with the idea, but I've just about got comfortable with the idea that that's to my benefit and to everyone else's benefit as well. Because now I can say yes to things that pop up, knowing that the funding is already there to pay me the salary that I've already agreed to. So I no longer have to think, have we got enough money to pay me for this, and how much should we charge for that? Because I've figured it out in a different way. I'm no longer counting my hourly rate for each hour I'm working. I'm thinking, have I got time within the week to do the extra work? And I know that we've already got the salary being paid. It's a really peculiar shift to go from thinking about paying yourself as a sessional worker to paying yourself a steady salary, but it frees me up. And I wasn't expecting this, but it has freed me up to do more of the development-y work, because I know that that will fit into the amount of time I'm being paid for. So it was a leap, and I still am not 100% confident that we will have enough money to pay me the same salary every month for a year. But that doesn't mean that we can't do that for a few months and then recalibrate. I'm not signing a contract with myself here.
Thank you. That was great, and you've given me 1 or 2 more tips, so thank you.
Great stuff. Okay, Samara, your hand was up first. Let's hear it.
Thank you. I think sometimes we forget about, I probably said this yesterday, but about banking our emotional energy. Like, if we use the infrastructure that we already have access to, like May, you were talking about being fortunate in different ways. If we like put the guilt aside in a box for a while, come back to it when we feel up to working through it, then I think it's okay, because we forget about all the disadvantages and all the stuff that we have to do to fight to just exist. We forget to measure those sorts of things. We look at the stuff that we've got that other people don't, but we forget to measure all the other stuff.
I think it's a balance, isn't it? Because we are bringing the whole of ourselves to the work that we do, which is where the value comes from. And we have to remember that the work that we do is supporting the whole of ourselves. So if we were working in an if you were being employed by a big organization, a decent big organization, you would get paid time off, you would get sick leave, you would be able to take 15 minutes to have a cup of tea and a rest during the workday, and that would just be normal. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have this feeling that if we're not working every minute of the day, we're not working hard enough. But we're not robots. We are meat sacks. We have to take care of our meat sacks to be able to do the work, because our work isn't separate from us as a person.
Yeah, I think
good and bad ways.
It's important to have some boundaries, to sort of. I've been thinking about the systems they use in hospitals to protect patients and how they can transfer into your other aspects of your life. Like, this is my meal time. This is stuff I need, and it's routine to someone else, so they're just being picky. But for you, that's the difference between having a really good, healthy work day and yeah, thank you for sharing all of that with such candor. I think we need to acknowledge when people do share, because it takes a lot, and to be mindful and respectful of the silences and not pry too much into those, because that's where we give people the opportunities to empower for themselves.
Yeah, great advice. No, very much like what you said yesterday, Samara. No, exactly that. Emotional energy and how we share it, and when we should share it, and when we should just let the silence sit. No, I like that very much. Thank you. Okay, if I may, Karen, you also have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you everybody so far. Wow, there's all sorts going on, isn't there? May, thank you so much, and Samara, thank you. I have a couple of questions. Just coming back to Samara's just points though. Yeah, imposter syndrome, I get it all the time with myself. Am I good enough? No, you crap. And I compare myself with all sorts of people, and key people that I've been talking to now go, Karen, you need to get rid of that. You need to look at your strengths and your qualities, and what you contribute is very different to everybody else's. And I think he and she, very true, because it's about that self-worth. And how often do we look back at what we've achieved, and some of the crap that we've come through takes so much strength, resilience, achievement, and that self-worth, and it's unbelievable. And already I've heard how people have had tough times, but we've come through it. And we're here now. We are here now, giving some worth. So looking back, I think sometimes is really worthwhile doing, and stepping out of the bigger picture of you and then going back in again. So my key question I wanted to ask, May, you talk about having a salary now, and I think that's totally wonderful. I'm a bit confused. I might need to go back a step. Is this salary because you've got a lovely grant that's come through and you've been successful, or is this to do with other income that's come your way? Because I don't know how you've achieved that, because that's wonderful. That's my question. And then I've one more after that.
Okay, well, it's both. So
Okay.
we got National Lottery Awards for all. We got
Right.
just under 20,000 over 2 years. And that covers 10 hours a week of my time at about £15 an hour, to deliver three core things essentially, which is I have a drop-in group. I'm about to start a group coaching program, financial coaching program, and I also do outreach visits to other organizations. And this is where the reminding myself of the value of the work I do, the biggest chunk of hours from those 10 hours each week is for admin and business development and evaluation. And I got lots of guidance from people like Shelley on how to word in the bid, how to word it, to not just kind of say salary, but it was the time for developing and analysing and evaluating the work that I was doing, which is essentially the stuff that I previously wasn't getting paid for at all.
Yeah.
So that is about 10 hours a week. And then as a result of all the work that I did before we got any funding and all the networking and all the talking to people, we've now started getting trading income. And I'm on the School for Social Entrepreneurs Community Business Trade Up programme, which is helping me to increase the trading income to the CIC. So the reason I'm sitting in a car park in Wythenshawe is I was just meeting with the Women of Wythenshawe Network about doing some training for them that will be paid. There's potentially up to £8,000 worth of work over a year from that network. I'm doing some work for the Money and Pensions Service. They were the government organisation that got me to do stuff for free, and I said, you really should be paying people. This is a matter of equity, actually. You should be paying people to speak. And I don't know how directly as a result of that, but as a result of the work that I did anyway, I did say I'm happy to do it for free in this instance, but you really should think about paying people. They have now contacted me to deliver at least one training session, potentially up to 3. So that's trading income of about £1,800. That's another example of I would have quoted significantly lower. They gave me the figure. I talked myself out of talking myself out of it, because I was going to quote them a lower figure than they'd said. And I thought, no, I'm going to go with the amount they suggested, because they suggested it. So they clearly are okay with it. And that was really difficult. I really wanted to chop some money off the number for no reason other than I didn't feel like I should say yes to the full amount. So yeah, there's various bits of trading income, and they're all the smaller numbers as well. I've delivered workshops for £50, I've delivered workshops for £150, but it's those bigger contracts where actually I'm not convinced I have the capacity to deliver all of this. But now that we've got the income coming in, I will be able to hire sessional staff to cover the bits that I can delegate, so other people can do some of the drop-in groups and some of the outreach visits on behalf of Talk About Money CIC, while I go and deliver the money that's the work that's bringing in the money. I had not envisaged that at all when I started out with the CIC. That's not trading income was something I couldn't get my head around. I tried selling money education related items at market stalls, because that was the only model of trading income I could come up with. Funnily enough, when confronted by toy stalls and sweet stalls and tombolas, nobody wanted to buy my conversations about money cards. But just because I was out there talking to people about what I do and what I'm interested in, other organizations with a budget said, hey, we can pay you to do this stuff. And every time somebody said, can you do this? I wanted to say, actually, no, I probably can't, because I don't think I know enough about it. And I told that version of myself to shut up and go stand in the back, while I said, yeah, I'm sure we can do that. And then I did it, and it was okay. And then they paid me, and now that's just kept happening. And I'm starting to get to the point of thinking, actually, I probably can do this. So now I'm going to put myself forwards and bid for contracts that 6 months ago I would never have believed I would have any hope of getting. But that's what I mean about taking the first step without knowing for sure which path you're following, because the path unfolds as soon as you start walking. But if you don't start walking, then the path doesn't appear. It won't appear because it doesn't know it's needed.
Yeah, I completely agree
Maybe
with
I'm
that.
a bit more manifesty than
Thank
I
you.
realised.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say thank you.
I think you said you had a second question.
Yes,
Or
indeed.
I think you've answered it, because it was about progression, and I think you've given me that, the progression and the what next and how you've got to where you are now. So thank you.
What's
that you
next
have
for me is
answered that.
definitely bringing someone else on, because 20 hours a week is the limit of my capacity for my health, my son's health, and because I want to home educate him, and that is a priority for me. So I have to be very cautious. This goes back to what Samira was saying. I have to be careful not to overextend my energies on work, because the whole point of running my own business was so that flexibility to support my family. And if I go too far down oh, this is great, maybe we could do more work, without bringing someone else on to support me with it, I'll be losing the flexibility that was my whole purpose in the first place.
Amazing. No, really, really, you know, inspirational, definitely. You know, Karen said that, and I agree. Just because you're so forthright and you speak with power and vulnerability simultaneously, where, you know, that's a very hard rope to walk. What I would say is I can feel some empowering fridge magnets coming on. I like the yogurt, absolutely. I like the meat sack, that made me giggle. So no, there's a few
Maybe market stalls could come back. Maybe I could sell empowering fridge magnets.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there you go. We'll sell those on a market stall. Happy days. Okay. Moving swiftly on, I've also invited Asma, who has been on Time to Grow and is the founder of Soul Sisters Empowering People in Rochdale, and is also a single mum and a social entrepreneur, and juggling and wearing many hats. And of course, when we're talking about whether or not financial stability is fundamental to starting, running, maintaining a social venture, or indeed working in the BCSE sector, I thought we'd want to hear it from the horse's mouth. So we've had May's unique perspective, and now I want to hear it from Asma. Asma, hello, introduce yourself for me, darling.
Hello, it's been really nice. I'm glad I came in earlier to hear what's been said. So I'm Asma Begum. I'm in Rochdale, and yep, I founded actually. You always like say, you know, you want to be sure what you say the right thing. I founded charity called Soul Sisters Empowering People, and the organization is supporting people who have been affected by domestic abuse. So it just comes from my own lived experience. And this is like about 4 years ago when I first went to speak about my experience in a way to like educate people and empower people. And just from that, the confidence grew and did group sessions. And then it was in the COVID, I was doing a lot of social media sharing, and found that it was needed. And at the time, and I still am, on Universal Credit, I had fled like 6 years ago from a perpetrator. So I wasn't in work, so I was getting Universal Credit, and I've got a little boy who, you know, was 18 months, 2 years old at the time. And the charity, I don't know how I did it now I think about it, but it was from my home living room, you know, using my own internet, using my own laptop. And I just thought this is needed, and I loved sharing about the topic and helping other women. And it's always been part of me that to help other women and empower them anyway, because I come from a corporate background, banking background, and I have a law degree. So when I used to do those jobs, I used to always think, sat behind a desk, I used to always think, I'm not really making a difference to a person's life, really. Like, I'm not living my purpose. I kept feeling like that. Kept thinking, am I always going to be doing this and like, making money for someone else? And it's just all about number crunching. And obviously my faith is Islam. So it's so important to me that my values are aligned with that as well, that I want to give back, And so, yeah, so seeing that was helping people, it kind of started making me feel better. So in the COVID, doing online sessions on Zoom and helping women, especially at the time, I was suffering with PTSD. So I had complex PTSD. I had depression, anxiety. I was on antidepressants. My eczema flared up again. Obviously started putting weight on. And but I was doing it because it was actually giving me energy. Doing that, I found that it was helping me feel better. And then once COVID was over, we could go back out there. I started thinking this should be a charity. This just can't be a community group. And so with the trustees, that I networked quite well because of the corporate banking. I have this networking skill. So I had networked with different groups of women across like northwest, north, just north of England, And I spoke to some people, got a lot of supporters. Nikayla's one of them from Flourish Together as well, who, because I have imposter syndrome, I still have it. I'm a first generation child of two parents that came, immigrated from Bangladesh. And so English is not my first language. I only got to read fluently when I was 7 years old. And actually, I didn't realize at the time, but now, after my incident of going through domestic abuse with my perpetrator, is when I realized that I suffer with imposter syndrome, that I actually have trouble. I believe I have trouble speaking in English properly. So I was thinking, this charity, how am I going to do it? And even though I have a degree and everything, I just thought, I can't do this. So I need people to help me. And, it's all been voluntary up till now. It's all voluntary based. So it's a charity, it's a CIO, and I've got a good group of ladies that are trustees who have really good skills. And we decided together it should be a charity CIO. Now with the CIO, it's quite different to social enterprise, which is I can't pay myself. It's more for the benefit of the public, that you're doing. So any funding you get, you put it back, invest into your charity. So maybe what happened is at the time I was a trustee because of what I've been through and my mental health, I was not able to trust people. So I thought I need to be a trustee so that this organization isn't taken over by someone else. But now, 2.5 years ago, I had got a job at Factory International. I don't know how I came about that. I never thought about going into work. I didn't think I was ready. I was still work. I have a court case going, 2 court cases going on at the moment. So I have a family court case going on, which has been 3 years. For the perpetrator wants contact with my son. There's been no contact yet, only indirect. I've been put through all the hoops, not him, even though I'm the victim. But we at the charity support women that go through this process as well. Because of what I've been through, I'm able to advocate and support women because I know. And then also I have a criminal proceeding going on. So this is me being crazy, putting myself in all the risk boxes because I do feel like, oh God, this is too much. And the criminal proceedings has been going on for 4 years. So I never thought I would work yet. I didn't think I was ready for it, but I was doing this charity, running the group sessions, and the women would come. And even we have a men's group called Soul Brothers, and they all say to me, they all just send me prayers all the time and good thoughts and say positive things. And they tell me how the organization has helped them mentally, financially, getting back out there, like recognizing boundaries and connections with family and friends. And we've had some of them that have become volunteers in the organization. And one particular lady called Kelly supported her for 2 years. And she was saying to me, oh, I have no skills. 2 years on, she became like I don't even want to say my right hand because she's more than that, but I had support with me, but we were both volunteers. But what we found in her was that she was sending her daughter to school on time. She had a routine. She was coming to the office. She wanted to help other women and empower other women because of how she felt I had empowered her. Whereas before, school was always on her back. Her daughters were not going into school. They were being late going to school. Her, she was on medication. She just didn't have a pattern for sleeping. So I knew that this is needed, right? But it was voluntary. But 2.5 years ago, somehow or another, and I'm a coach as well. I'm a podcaster. I've been a published author as well. I also am a presenter at the local radio station in Rochdale, and I speak in Bengali because I want to talk about the stigmatized topics. And, so all that kind of together, I never thought I was going to be ready to go into work yet. But then 2.5 years ago, one of my networks, a friend, just told me about Manchester International Festival. I don't even know why I applied. It was a job, neighborhood organizer. It was only a few hours. I applied, but I didn't believe in myself. So when I went for the interview, I just thought I know I don't speak properly maybe with grammar and things, but I just thought I'm going to be myself. Anyway, they rang me back afterwards and they said, you weren't successful for that role, but we want you to apply for another role, which is more hours and things like that. Apply, can't guarantee you're going to get it. Obviously, they have to say that. Thank you, Selva. So then went for the second role that they asked me for. Again, thinking, am I going to be okay at this? I'll go for it. Had to go in person, and they said it's half an hour. And I had to pass like a test beforehand. Passed that, it was like an admin task. Went in, I finished in 20 minutes, but I knew I spoke confidently, they asked me things like, what are you proud of? I always want to say my son first, because he is like my power to where I am now. I think I took that step of leaving my perpetrator because of him. And I am so strong and I stand up for myself, make time for myself because of him. Before, I wanted to please the community, my parents, So then I got this job at Factory International, which is now called Factory International. And actually, it was aligned with my role at the charity because they're a charity, but a bigger organization. But things that they do and work with the department I was in was engagement. It was working with communities. One of my friends said to me, when you get in there, you're going to make networks. I had no idea what she meant. But honestly, the friends I made in there and network, and like the CEO, I don't think I would have ever, been able to get in touch with him because I wanted to do a production on activism. And we've got funding from Arts Council. And actually, because I work there, and it's about how you are as well, I think, when you're connecting with people and how you speak to people. I think with my networks, I've called my friends and families. Just bear with me, yeah. Someone that come into the office. So I believe there was a reason why that happened. I ended up in that department. I ended up in that organization because it's given me more confidence because I was going into Manchester. I was actually wearing makeup. In 6 years, it was the first time I was wearing makeup to feel confident. Like today, I'm not. But it's okay. We're online. But, I was falling back into my identity again of the asthma before. So when I left with my son, I was thinking, he's always seen me as a bag of bones. I want him to know the real asthma. And that's what was happening. I was growing, but that's because I was also getting paid as well, which is helping me. Then the contract was a fixed term contract. So it finished in November last year, which has really affected me again now. So at the charity, I'm still a volunteer, but the trustees, now I've said to them, look, I need to step down and actually be an employee. So I would like to get paid for what I do because the charity wouldn't be existing if I wasn't an employee basically, and I need to get paid because we are spread thinly. So, I do ask for help in some situations. I have used the food bank. I'm not going to feel embarrassed. That's happened. And, I've done speaking events and I've done other things before, and people have said, oh, they haven't offered for paying time, but what I've said is before, oh, could you maybe pay me an honorary amount into the charity before? That's what I've said, into the charity. Someone said they wanted some of my expertise about opening a charity because I've done it. And they were like, I'm happy to pay you for your time. And I said, it's okay, you can just put some donation into the charity. But now I am learning now, especially now I am really stuck. I'm making sacrifices. So everything that I spend on is for my son. I don't spend on myself. I really have to plan my day. So the way I work is by putting boundaries in now, by blocking my time off for Soul Sisters, for my son's time. Then I get bits of payments because of the networks I made. People are offering me some bits of work that I'm doing as well. So it's all blocked off, you know, you've got to do that. It's so important for your mental health. And now I don't have antidepressants anymore. I do feel like if I didn't do this charity, I wouldn't be here where I am. But now it's so important that we do need to get paid, because your energy becomes low. You know, you start kind of going to negative dark places and thinking about things that are the worst, and start thinking again, like, am I not worth it? Is it something that I'm saying or not saying? Maybe I'm not in with the clique, you know? Sometimes you start thinking all these negative things. And I think it's also noticing, like, it's made me speak up about British Gas, for example. There's some issues, but it's made me learn to speak up and say, I need your help to sort this out. I'm not going to, you know, pay this until this is sorted out, because I can't, you know, actually picking the phone up, looking at my budget as well. That's another scary thing to do, looking at your budget. But looking at the budget and then like trying to reduce certain bills and things like that. So I think my thing is to say right now at the moment is that, you know, we really need to value our time, but block our time off properly and really because if we don't look after our energy and ourselves, then we're not going to be able to help others in the right way. And even like, you know, my son, he, you know, they need to see us as a good role model. And so I think it's really important that this topic is so important, that, you know, that other lady was speaking about who's gone now, because I resonate with everything that she said. So now I will say, like, they've asked me to speak at an event on Friday and Saturday night. Someone asked me to speak on Friday morning. And I've said to them, oh, you know, are you going to pay a fee? I've just asked them. It feels uncomfortable, but we shouldn't say that. And, you know, and then they said, oh, yeah, of course. Or one of them said, I'll pay for your travel, which is still fine, because, you know, that's still good, because, you know, fuel poverty. So I think it's important that, like, I am so many times stepping out of my box and feeling like, oh my God, why am I constantly taking risks? Like, you know, this is crazy. But if you want to make a difference, and I know from my heart I do, and I've spoken to my trustees, they know my view on that I would like to become an employee and then run the charity. So we have to speak up. And the question that obviously you said, Fran, about so if you think financial security is essential to have everything in place before start, it's funny because I do think actually, yeah, you should, but obviously my story says no, I didn't have a plan. So it's a weird one. You should really, because sometimes you know, people can give up, and, you know, and that venture might not work properly. But yeah, it's just also having the right people around you. You're kind of like women that and men that pick you up and help you and give you the right knowledge. Seriously, I've got amazing people around me that have amazing skills that have given me so many, have like unblocked my path and helped me to believe in myself and learn skills. So yeah, I just think I didn't do it that way, where I had my financial plan in place and then started the charity. But I think you have, in some ways you have to, and I think Flourish is good to tell you, you know, support you and give you some guidance and tips as well. I don't know if that's okay. I know that time is short, Fran, so I was trying my best to
Listen,
stick to
you have summarised the beauty of what it is to be a mother, a domestic abuse survivor, you know, an entrepreneur, a part-time worker, someone overcoming the cost of living crisis like the rest of us, and we're all just trying to put one foot in front of the other. And the difference, I suppose, when you're trying to build a social venture and trying to make a positive impact in your community is when you're putting one foot in front of the other, you're also carrying everyone on your shoulders whilst you're doing that, which makes it a lot bloody harder. So first and foremost, thank you as always for just being so authentic, transparent and visible, because that's what we need. You know, it's so easy in this day and age where we all follow each other on social media and we all see these amazing things, that we've all been to these networking events and we facilitated this session, and you know, it's all very lovely through the lens, but in reality it's a struggle behind closed doors. Of course it is, and we'd be lying if we said it wasn't. You know, I'm Fran, I work for Flourish, I'm Fran, and I'm building Coming Home, but I'm also the person who came from prison 2 years ago with a fraud conviction. My financial stability was not a thing. You know, financial instability is what led me to destroy a good business, which led me to destroy a good conscience. And had I had better education, support network, and fundamentals like addressing burnout, mental health, good ethics, good practice, those things never would have happened. But it does put me in a unique perspective now to be able to see the bigger picture, which is when we do have social entrepreneurs and women of purpose and power come through these doors, whether it's Flourish doors or Coming Home doors, is addressing the fact that we do need the fundamentals in place, because that's just logic. But that comes with the huge caveat that sometimes it's just a luxury that we can't afford. And that actually changes now. And if we all sat on our hands waiting for our ducks to align, and we all sat on our hands waiting for the perfect moment to start a business, nothing would happen. The world would stop turning. And it does, it's risk and reward. And it's how we be a bit brave, but bravery with sensibility. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, ladies, questions, thoughts for Asma?
I'll quickly say that even like there was an event that I'm part of a leadership group, and I also asked them, like, will you pay for travel expenses? So they did say no, because they also get funding and that wasn't part of their, you know, like budget. But I asked, I know, and they know now. So next time they know my situation. But also I put on LinkedIn like I am looking for work, which I wasn't doing before, but I needed it. And at the charity, we've been doing well financially. So even though personally I'm not, financially the charity is, but it's very open in the sense that what's the word? Not open, but like the treasurer deals with the finances. You know, even though I'm the founder, we make sure that it's professional, because we want to make this a strong charity and the foundation need to be strong. So we've had good funding. You know, we had seed funding to start with, and then we've come to a point now. I think this year our turnover is going to be 29,000. And the first year was 5,000. So that's the difference between the charity is doing well. It's, yeah, there. Just thought I'll add that bit in to let you know.
Yeah, and you know, that's beautiful, and I'm thrilled to hear it. But as you say, I am very proud of the journey that you've been on with Soul Sisters. But what I want is for Asma to thrive, survive. I hate that word, survive. Honestly, we're all surviving. I don't want, surviving's not good enough. We have to thrive. Life is too short to just exist and be happy with what we've got. I appreciate gratitude. I appreciate the cards we're dealt, but ultimately in the jobs that we do and the purpose that we have and the communities that we serve, we deserve more than that. Absolutely. And we need to start believing that. It's much like what May said. You deserve it all. You work your socks off. We all do. And more than anything, it's to have the balls, and it's not the balls necessarily. It's such a patriarchal concept to say, ask for it. If you want it, ask for it. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody will say no. If they say no, next. Absolutely. If people don't have the time or the money or the appreciation of what your worth is, don't give them it. Absolutely, it's two-way street, it's mutual respect, absolutely. Of course, you know, when we figure out what our worth is and how we try to monetize that, putting value on something like that, it's very difficult as social entrepreneurs and as women. But I think we separate kind of, we know our worth as human beings and we monetize our purpose for the greater good. It's a separation, absolutely. We don't tie our identities to the bank accounts because, well, that's not what our ethics are, absolutely. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Ladies, questions and thoughts for Asma? Yes, Selva, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know it's possible to change from certain enterprises, isn't it? And I'm just wondering, I can't remember which way around it is now, but can you change, for example, from a CIO to a CIC or a different type of business? And would that be something you'd want to do?
No, that's a good question, and I've thought about this a number of times. So initially, when I was thinking about whether it should be a charity, I also looked at social enterprise. but the topic itself, domestic abuse, I felt it should be a charity. And also I didn't have a lot of experience in this arena, so I went with the charity, and now I do feel it's right. I do. Even though I know what you mean about if it became a social enterprise, then I could pay myself. At the moment, I'm thinking, yeah, at the moment I'm thinking it to be a charity, but there's few different avenues we can play on, like have another organization like a consultancy, for example, because of the advocacy that we provide at the charity. And I'm a coach, and I provide that already. Then we've got other coaches who can be mentors as well, with like helping the people that come to the charity, but even outside of the charity, just people in the community need support with businesses. So possibly have other organized charities have charity shop, and they have the charity and they trade and make profits that way. There's that avenue, but I need to find out before I get into something. So that's another thing I've learned in this journey of asking the question, learning more about. I love learning. That's one of my values. So like I need to learn and make sure we do it properly, have the discussion with the trustees. There may be in the future that it could change from a charity to a social enterprise. I think it's all about the finances as well. And we've just got the National Lottery funding, and we hired like an accountant to do our year end this time round. So I think it's going to be having those conversations and seeing how we move forward with, is that something that we could do in the future? And also obviously if I become an employee, like a manager or operational lead, because that's what I'm doing anyway. I am doing that role, and they all agreed with that you're doing that role, and we agree with you, but we just need to follow the process properly. But it's taking a while, but we need to make sure everything's done properly. So there is that option of being an employee, and doing the job that I'm doing, that I enjoy doing this, and it's a legacy for my son and that the next generation. So I am aware, but it's trying to you have to sometimes think about everything before you make the decision, isn't it? And make sure it's going to be right at that.
And much like what May said, wasn't it, is that absolutely sometimes we can think ourselves into a corner and we paralyze ourselves with inaction. Absolutely. But it sounds like you're taking very measured and sensible kind of steps, and that's all progress is good progress, definitely. What I would say as well for some of you ladies who are on the call, Time to Grow will teach the fundamentals, of course, in that when setting up a social venture of any kind, whether it's a community group, a unincorporated association, a CIC, all of those bells and whistles, is income generation strategies, which aren't necessarily grants, bids dependent. It will be looking at kind of a multi-thread aspect to make sure that there's always money rolling in one way or another, to give the social enterprise longevity, but also to give you longevity, as revenue, income, existence, of course, bread and butter, and good old British gas, etc. Good. Okay. I mean, what time are we on now? Any more questions? Actually, before I go off onto a different thread, any more questions, thoughts, or thanks to Asma? No? Okay. No? Good. Okay. Right. To round up fairly succinctly, we were expecting another panelist who hasn't been able to join us yet. If they pop up on screen, I will cease to communicate and let them take the lead. But what I would say is this session was designed to give you an insight into real life. Of course it is. We're all very excitable. We're all very empowered, driving our social ventures forward with Time to Grow and being engaged with the Flourish network. You can't not feel that power. Flourish is phenomenal for the education it provides, but also the support network. And this is indicative of that. And I think that's a joy, especially for anyone watching this back. You can rewind, play, and listen to some of the inspiring comments. If you need a pick-me-up, I know I will be doing that, absolutely. What we also have alongside Time to Grow is the Finding Financial Security programme, and we have a springtime social on Wednesday the 20th of March here at the Flourish Hub in Heaton Chapel. And much like what the ladies have said, all of the issues that we've sort of addressed and touched on in terms of building that resilience and that stability, we'll have experts on hand. It is, of course, one of those classic Flourish freebies where you turn up, you have a glass of wine, you have a nibble, usually from Sofra, some delicious social enterprise female-led cooking and foodies. That's half the draw. But also we've got Stones and Young financial advisors on hand that night, who can talk you through pensions, wills, mortgages, all the things that often fall by the wayside when we're too busy thinking about 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I've paid the bills, I've paid the food shop and the kids' school trip, etc. Lovely, right? Have I sorted my pension? Well, bugger that. Who's got time? Absolutely. Well, you can make time on Wednesday, the 20th of March between 6 and 8 here. But what I would say is all of you have resonated with May, and May, in all her joyous capacity and meat sack visage, apparently, is going to be with us on Wednesday, the 20th of March. She's going to be here as well to have a glass of wine with, or a non-alcoholic beverage of your choice, to sit down, chat, put the world to rights, and just find the answers to the questions that you haven't known who to ask, where to ask, what to ask. And ultimately, the evening is about bringing together the Flourish Network to have these conversations in person. Zoom is a joy, but sometimes you just want to ask the question off camera and have a human conversation. And that's what it's for. It's to bring people together in a social environment as a peer support opportunity with some professionals on hand, if you want to bend their ear or not. It's listed on Eventbrite, so by all means go sign up. But other than that, as I say, without our third panelist, we've got 15 minutes left on the clock. I shan't keep you if I don't need to, but any burning, let's have a little look in the chat. Question from Karen.
That was me. I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but I wanted to ask the question.
Bless you. Yes. Happen again, delivering on Wednesday. Yes, so finding financial security, we've got all sorts of webinars that have taken place, but also we do have a program that runs online, dates to come. So yes, I will share those with you as
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely. Anything I can help you with whilst I'm here? Any burning questions, any flourish questions, or is everyone feeling empowered and seen and heard, which I think has been the most important aspect of these sessions this week, is that, you know, Selva, you shared beautifully yesterday, the vulnerability and the humanity of what it is to be a woman of lived experience in every aspect. And I just thought it was wonderful that Anna, who is very camera shy and could think of nothing worse than facilitating an online session, did. And everybody who took part in that stepped forward in bravery and thought, yes, today I will. For an hour out of this day, I'm going to do it. And that's all we can ask. Absolutely. Prior to that, you know, earlier this week on Tuesday, we had, gosh, so many participants focusing on whether being neurodivergent was an asset to social ventures and building a social venture. And of course, the answer is yes. Yes, absolutely. You know, Shelley was thrilled, much like Anna was yesterday, neurospicy. I think absolutely it is neurospicy. Add a flavour. No, I'm all for that. Neurodivergence, lived experience, financial stability or instability, it all adds colour and fabric to the things that we're doing. None of it is a shameful thing. None of it is a barrier, because ultimately, if we talk about it and we talk to each other about it, it's easily dealt with, absolutely. So I hope that's inspired you on a Thursday lunchtime. I hope you can all now go and crack on. And if you're working this afternoon and you're doing something magical for your social ventures or whatever it is you're doing, make sure it's proportional and measured and balanced and paid. Yes, good. Any questions, ladies, or are you quite happy to go about your day? Delightful. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Always happy to see you, and I'll see you on the next Time to Grow session.
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thanks for
You're
organising
most
and
welcome.
arranging. Thank you.
Have a lovely day.